What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Maverick Raven coming at you with another one. And we a lot of us will say that stuff like this happens all the time, you know. But then you get the leftists typically because they're the ones that will always defend this. They'll say it's a conspiracy theory and it's crazy and we're just being paranoid. But see here, it says according to the Epic Times, prosecutor says charges dropped against election software company were for political reasons. A tort claim alleges the Los Angeles DA George Gascon dropped the case after being praised by former President Donald Trump. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves because this is going to take some twists and turns here. The Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon dropped charges against an election software company's CEO despite strong evidence of wrongdoing because he was worried about politics, according to a prosecutor who works in Mr. Gascon's office. Eric Neff, the prosecutor who was helping with the case against Conic CEO Eugene Yu, alleges in a new tort claim that the charges were dropped in 2022 because Mr. Gascon, a Democrat, became concerned after receiving praise from former President Donald Trump. Mr. Gascon was overwhelmingly concerned that since he had inadvertently gained Mr. Trump's support, the outlook of such support by prosecuting Mr. Yu would impact his stance and popularity politically, states Mr. Neff's claim, a copy of which was obtained by the Epic Times. Mr. Gascon first shuffled which officials oversaw Mr. Neff in the prosecution of Mr. Yu. Then, about 3 weeks later, Mr. Neff's new supervisor informed him that management from the DA's office had ordered the case to be dismissed, according to the document. You guys, I say this happens. People like me say this happens. You guys gotta understand that this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is real life. In any area where there's power at stake, or influence, politics are gonna play a role, man. And I don't even mean like necessarily countrywide, nationwide politics, but maybe even just like this guy. Maybe for all we know, he was running for something higher than a DA. He had political aspirations maybe for his future. You never know. I mean that's probably what it seems like because otherwise, why would he care? As the DA, he's a law enforcement officer technically, right? He's not a police officer, but he is in charge of prosecuting criminals. Um, so it says Mr. Neff objected because he thought the dismissal was illegal, in part because the motivation was political gain for Mr. Gascon. That would constitute fraud because Mr. Gascon and his workers were misrepresenting the reasons for the dismissal, Mr. Neff alleges. After Mr. Neff complained, he says he was placed on administrative leave as an internal investigation took place. That investigation wrapped up recently. No disciplinary actions were taken against Mr. Neff, and he was reinstated, although he was reassigned to a much less desirable assignment in retaliation for his pushback, the document states. That's crazy. The claim alleges personal injury caused by Mr. Gascon and others. It estimates Mr. Neff suffered $11 million in damages. Mr. Neff complained about the unethical and unlawful dismissal of the prosecution against Mr. Eugene Yu and was then retaliated against by George Gascon. Tom Yu, a lawyer representing Mr. Neff, told the Epic Times via email, "We look forward to seeking justice for Mr. Neff." So there's a Eugene Yu and a Tom Yu. Okay, okay. Just gotta keep track of which Yu we're talking about here. Mr. Gascon's office declined to comment. The office does not comment on personnel matters, a spokesperson told the Epic Times in an email. The county has not responded to the claim, Mr. Neff's lawyer said. Los Angeles County settled a lawsuit filed by Mr. Yu after the charges were dropped, agreeing to pay the Conic CEO $5 million. County lawyers advised the county board of supervisors to approve the settlement due to the risks and uncertainties of litigation. Their justification noted that all charges against Mr. Yu had been dismissed. The approval came after Mr. Neff appeared at a meeting and told supervisors they should not approve the settlement. Why are we settling a claim for lack of probable cause after the DA decided, after they became aware of all these supposed problems with the case, they still went ahead with filing a complaint? Mr. Neff wondered. He said the timing of the request might be linked to Mr. Gascon's re-election campaign. And there it is. Mr. Gascon won enough votes earlier this year to advance to a runoff election, which will take place in November. And that's what it is. His position is not necessarily tedious, but I'm sorry, not tedious, but precarious. Not necessarily precarious, but he might get voted out. Who knows? So that's what he's trying to avoid. Mr. Gascon's office announced the charges against Mr. Yu. I'm guessing they mean Eugene Yu. In October 2022, prosecutors said evidence showed Mr. Yu stole the personal information of poll workers and stored that data. On servers in China, which was outside the scope of a $2.9 million contract the county had with Michigan-based Konnech. Data breaches are an ongoing threat to our digital way of life. When we entrust a company to hold our confidential data, they must be willing and able to protect our personal identifying information from theft. Otherwise, we are all victims, Mr. Gascon said at the time. According to the charging documents signed by Mr. Neff, he said that the breach was probably the largest data breach in United States history. Mr. Gascon's office, though, soon asked the Los Angeles Superior Court judge to dismiss the charges. The judge did so on November 9th, 2022. We are concerned about both the pace of the investigation and the potential bias in the presentation and investigation of the evidence. Tiffany Blacknell, a spokeswoman for the office, told the Epoch Times in an email at the time. As a result, we have decided to ask the court to dismiss the current case and alert the public in order to ensure transparency. A lawyer for Mr. Yu said his good name was tarnished by the allegations. Ms. Blacknell also said that prosecutors had assembled a new team to explore whether any criminal activity occurred. It has not issued an update since on what the new team found. Okay. Our office has an ongoing obligation to continually reassess the case in light of all the available evidence. We currently have an immense volume of digital data that will define this case, but the processing of that data will take months, Ms. Blacknell said. We would not be able to fairly and accurately process and present all of that evidence within the statutory timeframes. For all the aforementioned reasons, it is in the interest of justice to dismiss the current prosecution until all of the available evidence can be processed and understood. You guys, I hope that this clarifies something to you guys. I hope that you guys that are hearing this, that are watching this, can just if it just opens up your mind a little bit, just the possibility of corruption behind the scenes, just because it could happen, then I would have done my job as a person on this earth. But anyways, yeah, that's the video, you guys. You let me know what you think down below in the comments. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That stuff really helps me out. And you know how it is, guys. Stay safe and stay based.